Meeting adjourned. Is that what you say when you start, or right? That's the beginning?
Usually.
Or is that at the end?
That's to quiet everyone down. That's the
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Well, it's here, so I'm going to use it. Well, I got to confess, I didn't have a lot of time to prepare. I actually had a lot of time yesterday to prepare, but I got so overwhelmed with everything that I had to do that I stayed up till 11:30 writing an article, and I thought I was going to get up early and do a speech today, but it didn't quite work out as I'd planned, and then I had a phone call that went a couple hours longer than I thought it would, so here I am without a speech prepared. So at 10:35 this morning, I decided I can either write down a bunch of notes about the topic failure, which was what I was going to speak about today, or I could see if I could just try to build up a little mojo by doing some things I like to do and see if maybe that was enough. So I went and played Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata, the Adagio part from the Moonlight Sonata. Are you familiar? Da 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 da. No? Okay. One person, that's it? Well, you've probably all heard it. It's a very famous piece, very beautiful. I have a lot of respect for that piece and the Pathétique as well. So I did that amongst a couple other things. I brought some toys with me, including some devil sticks. I thought maybe I'd do that. And then I engaged with a lot of people on the way here. I like to engage with strangers. I think it's part of the whole saving the world business is breaking down the barriers between myself and strangers and all of us together. And the word stranger even is a very strange word, is it not, Michael? Would you say so?
I concur.
Okay. Now, I've given maybe, 5 or 6 speeches here thus far, and a couple speeches ago I was told that it would be good if I left some time to perhaps answer some questions. And so rather than give a speech on whatever, I could talk for hours, I'm sure, about anything. I thought, well, first what I'd like to do is challenge myself by getting rid of this thing. Would you do me the honors and scoot this thing over? And while I'm doing that, I just got a quick comment to say, I got duded just a little while ago. What's up, dude? And no offense or anything, but we got to be a little more selective about our language, about the whole dude thing, right? It's a word that you can use every so often, but we got to be a little more selective, right? I thought by a certain age I would no longer be called dude. I'm not trying to attack you or anything, but anyhow, just an observation. Anyone use the word dude a lot in here?
Not
Yeah?
a lot, but
It comes in handy.
but you
Like
have
if you're
to
doing
also, well, you also have to use dudette because
Dudette.
that's what to do.
Right. I should have addressed you dudes and dudettes. That would have been better. So anyhow, given that I've done a number of speeches here and a few of you have been here to witness me give these speeches, I would like to maybe field a couple questions about what I've spoken about thus far. And that would be really useful for me today, a little impromptu speaking. And also get rid of this thing, get rid of the barrier between us, take risks, right? So.
What is your issue with dude?
No issue with dude. In fact, I saw a very funny issue of South Park last night in which they talked about another word which I will not mention here, and they changed the definition of that word. Anybody know what episode I'm talking about? Okay. I can't even say the word here because it's too offensive if I do. However, language is like an art form. We can use it selectively, so sometimes it can be good depending on how we use it, the context of it. If there's something really silly, like if I were to call an 80-year-old man dude, it better be the right context, right? Because that sounds a little weird, right? Can you imagine calling someone 80 years old dude? A little weird, right? But maybe there's a good context for it, right? Any questions on my vision and what I've talked about thus far? I've talked about saving the world, right?
Yeah, you said saving the world.
Yes.
How do you envision yourself doing that?
Well, I have a website that I've created, and I haven't shared the domain yet because it hasn't been completed quite yet, but it is pretty close to being completed. So most of the information I've attempted to put on the website such that I wouldn't have to explain everything, because we could have like the 3-second version of how this works, which would be just a snap of the fingers, basically, and that's like saying you already got it. And then there's like the 3-hour, the 3-day, the 3-week, 3-month, depending on how much you already understand, how much work you've done up to this point, asking questions to unravel some of the, what we call mysteries about this life that we live. But in short, I distill it down to one factor, and that's relationships. And saying relationships is everything. And there's a hell of a lot of evidence to support me in this, so I'm not making an outrageous claim, including your own experiential evidence from your own life. If you have good relationships, life is good. If you have sucky relationships, life is bad. Simple as that, right? There's some other factors too, but that's definitely the primary relationship. Primary issue is relationships, rather. Mm-hmm.
So Adam, why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself? I know that you're into music. It seems like you have some musical education, perhaps talent.
Mm-hmm.
Where have you? I know you have all these philosophical views. Have you received formal education? Is this something you've done through reading? Tell us more about you.
Yeah, well, ever since I was a little kid, I've asked a lot of questions. I remember, I'm getting a memory right now of just riding in the back seat of the car, looking up at the stars, wondering, about the universe. So I've always had a lot of questions. Always been very inquisitive, and around 20 years old, I had a great realization that on a run out in the countryside, which I called the 2-ton hay bale or something. I gave my runs little names, but that's when I drove out to the countryside and did a run. Had these giant hay bales out there that I'd run around. And anyhow, on that run one summer day, I realized that I was here to save the world. I didn't understand how at the time. I had to get rid of a lot of delusional thinking, actually, and become much more rational to understand how that was going to work. So I've been into music since I've really been a little kid, loved music. I remember when I was a very little kid, like maybe 3 years old, I was listening to a recording of a rock and roll song with a record player. And I was laughing hysterically because it sounded so funny to my ears, but I always have loved music. But I've always just been very inquisitive, and so my questioning has naturally led me to create this platform that I have right here and have this vision of how we can actually heal the world. That's a little bit right there. I don't want to go too into it because that's an entire speech, an hour speech really in itself. So, Chris.
You talked about last week in your speech around the right to die, euthanasia. I don't know if that's you had a couple of terms there.
Right.
Why haven't we gotten there faster in terms of making that happen? Particularly in Pennsylvania, it seems like some other states have come up with that concept and approached it and had a public hearing of it, so
Okay.
to speak. A referendums have been passed and laws have been passed up. Why haven't we gotten there in Pennsylvania?
Well, I'll tell you that relationships is the cause for every single problem. So I've created a plan, I have a vision, and that is the answer for absolutely everything. So we see like these politicians talking with their suit and ties, really proper, but being proper and just because you've got the suit and tie, you're well groomed, that you're talking in the right language does not mean that you're actually having meaningful communication with people. And so that's really where it starts. And as long as the president and the people in Congress are as crazy as they are, yet they've ascended to power, we're going to be in the same situation. But we don't have to rely on legislators to do this for us. We have smartphones, we have the internet now. We can organize very quickly if we have the desire to. We think about viral videos now, how fast things can take off, how fast ideas can take off. There's really nothing stopping us from creating a movement that really transforms the entire world very quickly. What it's going to take is a lot of consolidation. I don't have a whole lot of things to say about particular issues because I know that we'll solve them and we'll solve them very quickly if we have the desire to do so. But without actually addressing the most fundamental factor of our lives, which is relationships and communication, we're going to maybe solve that problem here in Oregon or Colorado, California, DC, wherever, the states that it already has been passed, the right to die, that is. But until we actually create a more sweeping transformation in the world, we're going to be attacking these issues one at a time. So even if you do get that passed here, there's going to be some other problem somewhere else that's going to take its place. It's like a carpet that's too big for the room, right? Press down in one place, goes up in another. That's what we're dealing with right now. We need a much more comprehensive approach to solving the problems in this world rather than dealing with them one issue after another.
Okay, so give us a 1-minute summation of just what today was all about and why you wanted to do today's speech.
I wanted to do this speech for a couple reasons. I wanted to be more vulnerable with getting rid of the podium, seeing if I could be more comfortable, challenge myself in that way. I wanted to, when I first got here, I think the very first speech I did was impromptu because maybe we needed a speech that day, I can't quite remember. Or the projector wasn't working, I think that might have been it. But I said early on that I did want to practice impromptu speaking because that was an area that I think I could do really well in. I'm a creative person and I prefer actually things to be more spontaneous and flowing than things being real rigid and relying on a script so much like I have before. So I wanted also today to test and see if I could, instead of structuring a speech, if I could just play with the idea of mojo, see if I can get some mojo going, you know, doing the piano, doing juggling sticks, talking to people on the way here, just trying to get things to flow more and seeing if that would be a good way of preparing for a speech if I had no content whatsoever. So there you go.
Okay.
Let's do one more about the dissolving, or my
Actually,
work.
we need to-
Okay,
we're
okay, let's
almost
quit.
at half the meeting done.
Okay, good. Oh yeah, okay.